All right, guys, as promised, another update of what I think will be a different winter than maybe you're hearing about. Some things in the Arctic are taking place. We're starting to see that seasonal cool down. And I say that because, listen, I am actually in agreement that we are probably going to have a warmer than average winter for the central and eastern United States. I don't think that's changed. But why I think this year will be different is the cold air that's building across the Arctic. We've seen a massive storm path and track that has just pounded the West Coast, but we're also seeing that cold air really staying bottled up north. That's one of the reasons we've been so above average in the east and the central plain states. If that continues into November, my case grows stronger, at least in my mind, that we have a colder December, January, maybe even February. I'm not saying it will be below average, but what I do think is now that cold air is bottled up, it gets colder and colder. You don't have any large intrusions of warm air into the Arctic displacing that cold. You build it, and then eventually the dam breaks. Let me show you what we're dealing with here. But first of all, I do want to say, also, if you have an opinion on what it's going to do, I love to hear from you guys. It always blows me away, too, when I just read some of the comments. I'm like, wow, I didn't really think of that. Great call, great idea. We're not even going to get into the MJO phases that we're in. I know there are a lot of you folks out there like me. You're a weather nerd. You know all the phases of the MJO. You know the Atlantic Oscillation, the PNA, El Nino, La Nina. We're in a weak La Nina, by the way. This is just one of the things that we're looking at today. And I think this is going to set up a strong Arctic jet here. So let me know down below what you're thinking and why you're thinking. Not it's going to be warmer than average this winter again. Is that a gut feeling? I mean, I got a gut feeling. The gut feeling is it is going to be above average. But today I want to show you why I think, again, there will be maybe some breaks of cold air that move south. This is where we were with snowpack last week. And the ice cover across the Arctic, again, not quite closed here over towards Siberia, not quite close to Alaska. This is where we are today. More snow across the northern hemisphere. There's no doubt about that. And we've closed that ice sheet here. It's very thin ice, but it's enough, though, right? You move that cold air across the North Pole if you get a setup that blocks everything. So if your westerly flow is like this around the Arctic, right? And this is how your polar vortex would be spinning. Let's say you get a blocking pattern here across Greenland, right? So you got your flow coming in like this, a large ridge sets up, which can happen with some sudden stratospheric warming. That's when you really see everything get messed up in the Arctic. And we'll talk about that on this channel too. So I know this is kind of a deeper video, but anyway, the point is when you get that westerly flow that gets disrupted, you get that ridging that happens here. Now you start to mess things up. That's when you start to disrupt that cold air, especially if a ridge goes like this, cause that cold air to push down into North America. If you can get that ice formed, which is what we're seeing, clearly it has a better chance of not being modified moving across open water. An active storm path, I think that will continue here into the northwestern United States, western Canada, also into Alaska. More snow here. A huge temperature difference between the warmer waters of the Gulf of Alaska and the temperatures inland, which are near or below zero. I mean, look at this. We are probably not going to get above zero here along the north slope here into Alaska. Temperatures as we head into the daytime into the afternoon struggle to get out of the teens. So some pretty cold air here also over into the Northwest Territories. That temperature difference, I mean, look, we are talking about a good 50, maybe even 60 degree temperature difference here. And it's no wonder you're getting these huge storms that just spin up as these physical processes try to find equilibrium. That's what drives weather. That's what's driving these storms in the West Coast. That's what's really ultimately has put the snow down in the West. This is what we've seen so far this season. I'm sure some of it has melted, but you can clearly see the Wasatch, the Rockies up here into the mountains of Wyoming, Montana, Idaho. And boy, we've been getting some snow lately too across the Cascades and into parts of California. And I think more snow is on the way here. Snow today. This is interesting too. Let's move on to where we are right now. I think we get it today from Minneapolis. I think northwest of the city here, we're going to get even more snow. And then up into parts of Wisconsin. I've been talking about this for the last couple of days, and we're already seeing winter weather advisories. Some of those are saying 3 to 5 inches, locally higher amounts. It wouldn't shock me if we get more, but no snow in the east. Way too warm here for any type of snow. Some severe weather possible also as we move through the day today, mainly this morning. As we move through the day, there could also be some stronger storms here into parts of Mississippi, Alabama, down along the Texas Gulf Coast, and a few isolated severe storms possible. Not nearly as strong as what we saw on Wednesday across the Central Plains states. That all moves to the east, and then we start to dry out some. Another weak system may bring some rain showers to this region. As we look at the east, over the next 24 hours, that rain starts to fall apart. Now, there may be some showers for parts of Ohio, Kentucky, West Virginia, Pennsylvania. But look how it just completely falls apart as we move into Friday. So Tennessee, we may get some rain. We need it in many of these areas, down into parts of Mississippi, Alabama, but it doesn't look like a tremendous amount. And then that front just sort of fizzles out as we get toward the weekend. A quick look at that snow, though. Let's go here into parts of Minnesota. That snow could get heavy into the afternoon, rain or snow mix. Here's the deal, though. If you dynamically cool, which I think is going to happen, it's looking more likely this morning, you get that quick thump of snow. You could put down a quick 2 to 4 inches in just maybe an hour or two. And if it keeps snowing, you may end up with 5, 6, 7, 8 inches, some areas. I mean, the models are saying you could get a little bit more. A quick look at the HRRR trying to put down just to the north and west of the Twin Cities here, somewhere between 6 and 10 inches of snow. I think there'll be some melting of that, but it just still, again, gives you the idea that there could be some snow here, and that stretches out into parts of northern Wisconsin and maybe a little bit into the UP of Michigan. All right, so it's going to be nowhere here in the thumb down here toward Detroit. We're clearly way too warm for any snow, but get up in here, and there might be a little bit. It doesn't look like, again, a huge snowstorm by any stretch, but still maybe a few flakes flying in and around the Great Lakes. Let's time the rest of the country out. Let's back you up here. There goes our storm into Canada. It's actually going to weaken as it moves into Ontario. There could be a small strip of snow here on the north side of this, but no snow for places like Toronto, Montreal. It's just too warm on this go around. Enough cold air behind that. We could see maybe a few flurries up into parts of southeast Canada, and then that front again washing out as it moves to the south. Our next storm slamming into the west. This continues, guys. I don't see any change in this over the next couple of weeks. It just feels like storm after storm after storm. I'm a skier, guys. I used to ski. The older I get, the more my knees hurt and the less skiing I find myself doing. I'm being real here. You know what I'm saying? But if you're a skier and you like snow, boy, it's going to continue to pile up across the west. It's going to move into the Wasatch, the Colorado Rockies, maybe even as far south as New Mexico with this storm heading into the first part of next week. And this may actually be another severe weather maker toward Monday and Tuesday with this large trough in the west and everything just pushing out into the plain states. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. And behind that, some colder air tries to intrude across the northern plains. Maybe some rain here across the Midwest and the South. But look, that front just dies again. That's what we've just seen over and over and over. And then more snow with some colder air across the west. It looks like we may actually see a cutoff low by the end of next week, but that's a long time out. So we've got some time before we iron that out. Concern still continues to grow in the Caribbean. National Hurricane Center now upping their chances for development here to 50%. Makes sense because the ensembles continue to show something developing here. You have high pressure here at the surface off the coast, likely driving whatever forms here north. Where does it go? Where will the placement be? I think there's just too many questions, but the trend is for something here to move north. Watch it. All right, that's all I got. I'll see you next time.